The other area that you may want to look at once you've got your site up and live is adding other users. It's probably not just you that needs to work on the site. So in here, you can choose and add users. You could add a user with different roles, which we'll show you in a minute. Email address, a username, just pay attention to what you can and cannot use. You can use quite a bit of things. A password, make sure it's complex. And make sure that if you want to send it to them in some way that you remember what it is. Status, blocked or active. So if you did create a user that you do want to block in the future, you can block them. You can choose the roles, which we'll go through here, and you can notify that sends an email. If you want them to reset it, you can expire the password and boom, create a new account. So if I did, I could go through that. I could create a user and then they would show up in the user list. If I didn't want this user, I could choose them and block them out or cancel them. So lots of tools there for powerful user management. The other area in Drupal that then takes a note is roles. So users have roles and roles have permissions. So in the Drupal side of the house, you have anonymous users, which is anybody that's not logged in. You have authenticated users, it's anybody that is logged in. And then you have different roles on top of that. And the permissions for each role are listed in a very, very long list of options. I suggest that you get help if you're not sure what to do here. But as you can see, I can scroll for a very long time. Most of the roles are really based around visibility or access controls, and we've customized each one in here very specifically to allow very specific access. So if you need a new role, it's really helpful for us to just get the request and we can look at it with you and help you set those up. You don't need a lot of roles, but you can give people more than one role. So if you had a content editor that's also a member of some sort of a group of content on the site, they could have both of those roles. But you just have to remember the more roles you add, the more permissions they get. So if you look at the giant permission list across the types of users, adds and adds and adds. The areas we want to be very careful about is anonymous users. That they only really can see and enter forms and do very specific things, but we don't give them access to administering anything, because then that means anyone that just goes to your website could do a lot of things. Same with authenticated users. We use that with caution, because if somebody did get a login but didn't have a role, we still want them to basically have the experience of somebody that's anonymous to a point. They might be able to log in, but they can't do much else unless we choose to have a site that does that. Other roles, then we've got these broken down by exact types of content and systems that they want to use. You can see this differs by content moderation. So an editor versus a publisher. An editor can do archiving and creating new drafts, but they can't publish content and they can't restore an old piece of content. They can send a content to review, but they can't move it live. So a lot of that kind of complex stuff is done in the permissions and roles. And you just want to take a look and make sure you're comfortable with that as you're managing users. Another area that people tend to not look at as much in the people section is reports. So log messages, it's very helpful to see what someone did. There's going to be a bunch of just informational stuff in here. It's not broken, but you can see logins. You can see I did the password reset in a former video. We did that, and we could change all kinds of things. So that's all in the logs. You can see all kinds of things. Anything that's happened in the logs is in here. You can also see what plugins you're using, or access denied, or page not found. So if you're struggling with somebody not being able to access something, you can see a lot of that. So yeah, that's a lot of how do you manage users and roles. We have another area where you can build out different sections of groups content, where you could then take a user and lock them into a specific type of content as well. It's good for like special departments and things like that, where you want people to log in and be a member of a group and not really have access to other things. So we'll go over that in advanced training.